blackjack. So I think the point is that circling back to your original point, it's not that gambling is an issue. It's not that gambling is wrong. Compulsive, whether you're actually spending money or you're spending tokens in some computer game.
It's just tokens, which makes it harder because it's more
it's not money
from the value.
It's kind of like compulsive shopping, right? So talk a little bit about gaming. Why in the world would gaming be an issue?
And gaming, by and large, for the majority of people, is not an issue. We want to really emphatically underscore that. There are those unfortunate few, as it begins to say in the big book of AA, there are those that will use gaming as an escape, similar to those who use shopping as an escape, working as an escape. There may be an avoidance of relationship, of life. And so the gaming itself is not a problem unless there's in-gaming gambling, because that has now become tied and that can become problematic for some. And there are other neurobiologic reward circuitry and dopamine going on here and adrenaline and so forth. All of the neurobiology aside, that this isn't by and large a problem. But if I find that I'm gaming and spending hours into the night, that I'm not sleeping, I'm impaired when I get up in the morning because I'm exhausted and behind the 8 ball of sleep, and I'm not functioning well in my day job, that I'm not showing up for those in my life, I'm preoccupied, I become a little bit more obsessive around, I want to get back to that game that I'm doing, or that raid that I'm having, or this project that I'm involved in. And if I start really removing myself from those and in my life and the things that I do that bring me pleasure, because there's an overabundance or an out balance of game versus life, now it becomes a bit more of a problem. And again, not for me or you or anyone else to decide, but that person may start experiencing negative consequences.
Yeah, you kind of took away my defensive. Well, but I'm doing it with people. I'm enjoying the connection with the people online. But to your point, if it's hurting, if my employer is giving me feedback,
but I want to bring up a point and add to what you just said that I just thought of. I was countering. I was going to do a devil's advocate to your, well, if I'm not taking away from other people. And I'm thinking of those individuals who have wonderful friends and get together and game. And they don't possibly have an ability to see each other because they live in different cities, live too far away. And I can hear someone say, well, Deb, how is that a problem? Why is that even a problem? And none of this is a problem. If one is not in a relationship, and certainly they could spend 24/7, 365 gaming to no detriment, except there's one issue. Are they isolating? Are they removing themselves from interacting with the world? Will there be a very subtle shift for mood, depression, or anxiety? And so that isolation piece, becoming apart from the world that is in the real world, IRL versus online, that becomes perhaps a friction point at some point.
This is a huge issue in our society, and with especially younger people and teenagers, I think.
Yeah.
We're replacing the one-on-one relationship.
Person to person intact.
Yeah. Huge deal. All right. Well, you want to move on and try and get in one more?
Yeah.
Have we covered that? This is another one. I hope we have time for this, because Rick needs therapy around this. It's called hoarding. So to those of you that are reading this book that think, well, these are experts. These are people that have it all together. They don't have any problem.
I'm debating whether we cut this or not. This might be very enjoyable to leave in.
I still could cut it.
One of us would have to decide, or both of us would have to agree.
Yeah, well, listeners to this podcast or my office hours, I've referred to this. Well, look at what's behind me.
It does not look out of control or hoarding. What are you
Oh, well,
referencing?
there's no books there for a very technical. Well, yeah, I keep lots of stuff. Yeah,
Do
I'm a,
you have a hoarding problem, Rick? Is that what you're saying?
well, we said I would talk about this. Okay, for those of you that have taken the KMBI-R at kind of the beginning of this,
And you want to remind the listener and viewer what the
that's
K
the Klontz Money Behavior Inventory.
that they can
And
find in our book. Mhm.
it's in the book. It's in chapter 4, I believe. And it'll kind of tell you, which behaviors you have that might be problematic. It's on page 37 to be exact. Well, you might think I score highest in workaholism.
I'm not going to smile. I'm going to take this
You
seriously.
would be wrong. You would be wrong. It's
Really?
hoarding is my number one. Yeah. Now, I don't think it's hoarding. I don't think under the DSM-5, I would be diagnosed as a hoarder.
So you don't meet the diagnostic criteria for a hoarding disorder.
I don't think so.
Okay. But yet you see,
walk around in my house but I do keep things of sentimental value.
Okay, I still don't see a problem. What about that is problematic?
It may not be a problem. But in this, one of the questions in diagnosing this, is the bad word. I am so sorry. I feel emotionally attached to my possessions. Question number 8. Throwing something away makes me feel like I'm losing a part of myself.
Oh, so there's a strong emotional quality to that.
My living space is cluttered with things I don't use. Well, yeah, I don't use anything on that shelf behind me.
Okay.
I don't know that that's necessarily cluttered. My office staff would tell me yes.
That it is clutter?
Oh, they want nothing on their walls. I think it's a generational thing. They're all half my age.
Okay, well, hold on 1 second. Okay. I want to be sure that the listener or viewer is following along here. So if you cannot actually see this video cast and you're just listening, what I will describe for the listener is a very orderly bookcase behind Rick, made of wood. He has some books up there represented by what he's written and or what we wrote together. He's got some statue knickknack type stuff and some pictures. And nowhere in this background would anyone ever accuse him of hoarding. Nowhere, no how. It's an orderly set of cabinets, shelves.
You hit on the issue, I think. And any listener to my podcast knows that I've done a ton of therapy and a ton of work.
Join the club.
That's your self-disclosure. And there is an emotional component. Why? Why, when I look at what you can't see, this little dog.
Okay, now you're touching on something that I absolutely have to underscore. Does that little one have a name?
Yes. This is Doggy Daddy.
This is Doggy Daddy. And how old do you feel when you connect to that?
God, how old I don't know when he came into my life, but it was probably, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old.
So in therapy, we refer to this as our inner child.
Yeah.
Part of our inner child. He's an externalization of your inner child. And when you connect to Doggy Daddy, how old do you feel in this moment?
Oh man. What comes up is 6 years old.
Okay. And so your inner 6-year-old part or self, which we all have selves. I have a very active 5-year-old. It's like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm very emphatic and I can hear that just no, right? I could see it. I can feel it. If you're watching, you could see clearly I look like a 5-year-old when I do that. And that is a very healthy connection to a younger self. What I'm hearing you say is that your emotional connection to doggy daddy is different or perhaps connected to some of the emotional connection you feel to items in your house.
Yeah, it's like this thing is not worth anything. A dime in a rummage sale, maybe, right?
Maybe not
Is the
even.
emotional attachment. Like, oh, yeah, if I sold that, threw it away, gave it away, that those questions in that it feels like a part of myself
Yeah,
or
that you could no sooner throw away a basket of books that are tattered and torn and illegible than you could cut off an arm and throw it away.
yes. So this is on my list. My IFS therapist and I have a list for when things get boring, what we'll go to.
Oh, give me an hour of time together, and I think I'll have your issue really
Okay.
clarified.
So I'm going to be
Whoa,
hiring Deb.
I'm in. But this speaks to the point of what hoarding is about.
The emotional side of hoarding. I think it's really important to bring out. The,
I'm gonna. I want to. I want to actually. I want to say something more because before we move from this point, it's not just the emotional side. It's the emotional life that is attached to the item or items. It's much more significant. It's much more profound, and that grief and loss are very, very much an underlying issue to.
yes, yes. And there's the exile,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, Deb, we've almost managed to run out of time.
And we're just starting.
Closing thoughts on hoarding.
I would say that for many people, know hoarding through the programs they've seen on television and or some serious consequences that they've experienced growing up in their own life. And there are those cases where it has become so absolutely clinically problematic. I mean, it is dangerous for some people. Those are very, very extreme cases.
Yes.
Your case that you're referencing is very emotionally distressing for you, and yet visibly not necessarily the case that anyone could look and say, oh, Rick's got a problem, but it is internally has become a stress point for you.
Yeah. It's a point of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
So, for those of you that want to keep listening, who knows that we may have a session that will report on Rick's progress.
And until then,
Thank you, Deb, for
thank you.
being with me again. And we'll see everybody next
Been a
time.
pleasure. Been a pleasure. Bye, Rick.